بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So continuing with our works of Ramadan, and this is our second lesson on spending on family specifically. And so we're going to be talking about withholding from one's family. So it's narrated from Bahz ibn Hakim an Abihi an Jaddihi. It's a classic chain transmission. And as mentioned before, classic many hadiths, or some hadiths, wouldn't say many hadiths, go through son to father to grandfather. Right? It's often a book, or it's a tradition that's within that family. So it says Bahz ibn Hakim, rating from his father, from his grandfather, رضي الله عنه قال قلت يا رسول الله من أبر قال أمك ثم أمك ثم أمك ثم أباك ثم الأقرب فالأقرب. O Messenger of Allah, who deserves my kindness the most? Your mother, then your mother, then your mother, then your father. After that, whoever is the closest relative. Right, so this tells us again that concept of yes, we give charity to all sorts of people, but priority then is family members. So, for example, financially, imagine helping your mother out. Your mother's, for example, not under your financial wing. You have to support her because, for example, she's married. So her husband supports her, but you have, for example, help her financially in that regard, for example. Otherwise, it's an obligation, right? Your mother is a financial obligation if she doesn't have someone to support her. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يسأل رجل مولاه من فضل هو عنده فيمنعه إياه إلا دعي له يوم القيامة فضله الذي منعه شجاعا أو شجاعا أقرع. رواه أبو داود واللفظ له. So it says no freed slave is asked for money by his former owner that he doesn't need, and then refuses him, save that extra money which that he withheld will be brought on the day of rising in the form of a poisonous snake. So the question is, why is the Prophet ﷺ talking about a slave owner? We're talking about family. So why? Because in the context of Islam, in the days of slavery, the relationship between the slave owner and the slave was not that of someone owning a tool, rather owning a person, meaning you have somebody part of their family. So your mawla, the person that you set free, or the mawla, the one that sets you free, is your family member. There is something called wala, this loyalty, and it's not a financial loyalty. It's an emotion. It's a family thing, right? That when you're getting married, they have to be involved. If there's, for example, a death or something like that, someone gets murdered or accidentally killed, who's going to be paying the blood money? The part and parcel of this. So here, there is a connection between these two people. It's not just I owned you or you owned me, and I could tell you what to do and you could tell me what to do. It's not like that. Rather, we had a relationship. And you're part of my tribe now, and I'm part of your tribe. We're a family, right? So this is a very radical, radically different way of looking at things, right? So here, the Prophet ﷺ is saying is by virtue of the fact that you were family, now he set you free, and mashallah, you got lots of money. He comes and says, "Can I please have some money because I'm in need?" And you have it, and you say no. So what will happen? That it says that extra money that will be withheld will be brought on their rising in the form of a poisonous snake, right? To punish that person. Right? So again, we have to understand that the fuqaha tell us is that we're either looking at the picture of charity or looking at the issue of supporting, financially supporting your extended family. We only have to go back to the fuqaha and ask specifics about this particular scenario. But here the context is I'm in need, I need help, and you just are too stingy to help me. and you're forgetting the fact that I set you free. Right? You are part of my family, and you're still part of my family. So because I'm part of your family, please respect that relationship, and that I'm in need, and you have the means to help me. So help me. Right? And so another translation as well, it says Mawla. Mawla is from the word waliya yali, to be close. So that's why the slave master and the slave himself is called the Mawla, because there's a closeness, not just a financial or power relationship or a financial relationship. No, there's actually a relationship there. Right? The Mawla. The Wala, we call it. Wala is how you are, what's the word? Not relate, the word is like intima, what's the word? Like loyalty to something. Like that you relate to that thing and you're connected to that thing, you have loyalty to the thing. So we can also translate it, no relative is ever asked for money by his relative. Right? And this is why we're mentioning the hadith. Right? There's no slaves today, it doesn't apply. But number one, we learn that concept of the Islamic concept of slavery is completely different. And number two is that regardless however they're related to you, either that you set them free or that they're your cousin or your second cousin or whatever it is, that there is a relationship there, and those ties have to be kept. And so as a verse of Quran, وَتُقَطِّعُوا أَرْحَامَكُمْ, to violently cut up your family ties by not even bothering to help somebody who you could easily help. Like you have extra money, it's not a problem, and you're just being harsh to them for no reason. This is something that's very, very vile. And again, withholding from family. عن جرير بن عبد الله البجلي رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما من ذي رحم يأتي ذا رحمه فيسأله فضلا أعطاه الله إياه فيبخل عليه إلا أخرج الله له من جهنم حية يقال له الشجاع أو الشجاع يتلمذ فيطوق به. So it says no relative ever asks his relative for money that Allah has given him and that he doesn't need, and then is too cheap to give it to him, save that Allah will bring out a hissing snake from the hellfire called shija that will be wrapped around his neck. And here Al-Hafidh al-Mundhir mentions that this hadith is in Tabarani with a good chain transmission. And so when it's called shija, kind of another possible explanation of it, that shija, some have explained the shija is the snake that stands up, i.e. the cobra. And Allah knows best, because cobras, I don't know too much about snakes, but I don't think they don't usually kill their prey by wrapping around them. That's a kind of a boa constrictor or something like that. So Allah knows best. But the point is, pretty dangerous thing to mess with. And so the point is that very thing that you were too stingy to give will be a direct cause of punishment at Yawm al-Qiyamah. Right? And so that means we shouldn't withhold from any family member. Okay, can my family member just not work and just keep asking me? No. That's not, because it's charity at the end of the day. And so charity is about kindness and consideration. And so sometimes it's out of kindness and consideration to help that person get on their feet. Right? You might, for example, take off a week of work to try and help him get a job. Okay, I've helped you get a job, and I've done this and done this, but you're not turning up for work. You're not doing anything. Okay, this is a different picture. The scenario is you have the means to help somebody, not just anybody, somebody who is your family member, and you can't be bothered. You're not interested. Right? And so it comes out as a harshness and as a pain. Right? Towards them. And again then on family members, on supporting them, عن طلحة ابن يحيى عن جدته سعدة قالت دخلت يوما على طلحة يعني ابن عبيد الله فرأيت منه ثقلا. So it says that the wife of Talha, Talha ibn Ubaidullah, he Sahabi, she entered upon him one day and found that he had thiqal, he was a bit kind of weighed down or sort of upset. فقلت له ما بالك لعله رابك منا شيء فنعتبك. So she said, are you okay? Have we displeased you somehow? And then it says, فَنُعْتِبُكَ. There's a difficult word to translate into Arabic. أَعْتَبَهُ. I'tab is complaint. أَعْتَبَهُ, to remove the cause of the complaint. I.e., can we do something to change what you're complaining of? So she's worried that he's looking at her in a funny way. Is that, have we done something wrong? Is that, you know? And subhanAllah, and look at the beautiful akhlaq here, right? Someone looks at you with a frowning face and you say, what's wrong with you today? Right? So how is she saying, what's wrong with me today? Right? She said, have I done something wrong? Right? There's no harm in saying that. If it's clear this person is a grumpy person, they are grumpy and they're always grumpy, and it's their fault and they're not nice. It's okay. It's okay to be diplomatic, right? Right. We're assuming that she's, not being diplomatic, but even if it's the case, it's okay to be diplomatic. You have to say, what's wrong with you today? Why are you always grumpy? It doesn't really help, right? The believer is not trying to crush other people. The believer is trying to do something good, right? And so I don't need to come up to a grumpy person and say, why are you always grumpy? This is how you are. Why are you always depressed? Why are you so miserable? You say, have I done something wrong? Is there anything I can I change something? Right. قال لا ولنعم حليلة المرء المسلم أنت. So she said, are you okay? Is there anything we've pleased you with this? Have we displeased you in any way? And he says, not at all. You're a wonderful wife for a Muslim man. ولكن اجتمع عندي مال. He says, ولا أدري كيف أصنع به. He says, I'm just disturbed because I have too much money and I don't know what to do with it. Right? So here's the mentality of the Sahaba. Having lots of money is not a good thing. Acquiring lots of money and using it for the good is a good thing. Right? Having lots of things in your house is not a good thing. Having lots of things in your house and giving them to charity is a good thing. So there's no harm in being stinking rich, because in reality, the stench of wealth is only how you use it. It's a very good idea. Fantastic. Become a millionaire and do tons and tons of really, really useful things with it. Tons of things. Right? And be financially stable so that you can keep those things going. Fantastic. Great. As opposed to, I have lots of money, but I'm not sure what to do with it. Right? So he has all this money and he doesn't know what to do with it. I don't know how to use it in the good. قالت وما يغمك منه عد قومك فاقسمه بينهم. She said, what's the problem? Go and call your tribe, and so notice tribe. Go and call your tribe. فاقسمه بينهم, and give it to them. فقال يا غلام وعلي بقومي. So he said, oh boy, referring to his slave. Again. So again, we know the relationship with his slave, with a part of family. Go and call my tribe. فسألت الخازن كم قسم قال بأربعمائة ألف. And so the narrator says, I asked the bank, so to speak, or the person who looked after his money, how much did he give out? How much did he give to his tribe? He said 400,000. Right. So regardless, is this 400,000 dinars of gold or 400,000 dirhams of silver? Right. One is 10 times, and back in those days, was 10 times the amount of the other. Regardless, it's a lot of money. So what did he do? Did he just have money sitting there? No. He said, what can I do? Are there any orphans to support? No. Is there any poor person I know? No. Okay, give it then. Give it as presents. Right. The point is, he's trying to use it for something. Right. He's not just trying to acquire it to just to pile it up. Right. And then paranoia. Again, so then we're going to see the same concept here. وروي, and we know that's with a weak chain transmission. Allah knows best. وروي عن ابن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نشر الله عبدين من عباده أكثر لهما من المال والولد فقال لأحدهما أي فلان ابن فلان قال لبيك ربي وسعديك ألم أكثر لك من المال والولد. And so it says that the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah resurrected, i.e. will in the future, two of his slaves who had given much, whom he had given much money and offspring. He said, and so the same thing with children. What's the point of having children? I want to have tons of children. Well, I don't want to have any children. What's the point? What can you do with it? I want to have tons of children. Why? So that I have lots of children? No, it's that I want lots of people. I want to fill the world with good people. Right? That's what you're trying to do. Not that I want them to like me necessarily. That's not a goal. Obviously, I prefer that's the case. When everyone prefers to have a good relationship with their kids. But what if, for example, that's not the case? That's not the goal itself. The goal is not to have the comfort of children, it's that fill the world with lots of good people. Right? So he said, so and so, son of so and so, at your service, my Lord. May you be forever content. Did I not give you much wealth and children? You did. قال بلى بلى أي رب. He says, you did indeed, O my Lord. وكيف صنعت في ما آتيتك. He says, what did you do with that which I gave you? قال تركته لولدي مخافة العيلة. He says, I left it all with my children for fear lest they become poor. I had lots and lots of money and I was paranoid. I have 5 kids. Well, how am I going to pay for school next year and the next year and the next year and university? And when he finishes university, how is he going to start his business? And when he finishes, and if his business doesn't work, how is he going to pay the rent? So I leave him with all these different things. Right? So there's no harm, as we know, it comes in hadith, right? That it's better that if you're dying, you don't give all your money away. You leave money for your family, right? You don't leave them begging, right? And so that's true. You don't leave them begging. Right? And so if your intention is I don't want to leave my children, my wife begging, fine. But there's an extreme here. So here the context is the extreme. He had lots of money and he left it all to his kids for fear that out of fear. And so the issue is not how much the money. Right? It's important to understand. Here we're not talking about halal haram. We're talking about an attitude. Here this person is paranoid. He's trying to control how Allah provides for people. Right? Allah is providing for people. Allah gives life and takes life. You can't do anything about it. Stop trying to fight it. You can't do anything about it. Stop trying to protect your children from, I don't know, the next world war or the next... You can't protect your children from anything. All you can do is fulfill your obligation to Allah concerning your children. Right? There's a big difference in somebody who says, I fear Allah concerning my children and I want to, for example, provide for them for this reason, as opposed to I'm trying to protect them from Allah. I'm trying to protect them from what Allah will do with them. No. Right. So he says, I left all this money for them out of fear that they should become poor. قال أما إنك لو تعلم العلم لضحكت قليلا ولبكيت كثيرا أما إن الذي تخوفت عليهم قد أنزلت بهم. He said, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reply to him, had you really understood, you would have laughed little and wept much. You'd have realized you did a pretty stupid thing to do. The very thing that you feared, I made before them. So don't fight against Allah's destiny. It may be for the best, for their benefit that Allah made them poor. Right? For their benefit, Allah made them poor. So you're trying to fight against that through paranoia. Right? So again, there's a difference between paranoia. I'm saving all this money out of paranoia. What's going to happen if this happens? What's going to happen if that happens? And what about this? Don't worry about tomorrow. Right? Don't worry about tomorrow. Worship Allah today in what He wants you to do. Right? Look at those things. Okay, what does He need me to do? He said X, Y, and Z. Part of that is providing for your children today and for tomorrow, the short-term future. And when you die, mashallah, you have $1 million. You leave, you leave that, leave whatever you have in inheritance. But if you have lots and lots of money, right, and you're just paranoid and you're just trying, oh, I need to save this for that person, this for this person, you can't protect them. Right? You cannot protect yourself or your family from fate, from Allah. So don't take on that role. Don't try and do that, but rather leave the matter in Allah's hands and take the practical, reasonable means to do that. And and don't be obsessed about trying to protect the future, because who knows what's going on. And then the Prophet said, and وَيُقُولُ الْآخِرْ أَيْ فُلَانَ ابْنَ فُلَانَ. And he says, and then another slave, he said, oh son, so and so, son of so and so. فَيَقُولُ لَبَّيْكَ أَيْ رَبِّي وَسَعْدَيْكَ. And he says, ever at your service, my Lord, may you be ever content. فَقَالَ لَهُ أَلَمْ أُكْثِرْ لَكَ مِنَ الْمَالِ وَالْوَلَدِ. Did I not give you much wealth and children? فَقَالَ بَلَى. You did indeed. أي رب, O my Lord. قال فكيف صنعت فيما آتيتك. What did you do? What did you do with that which I gave you? قال أنفقت في طاعتك. I spent it in worship of you, right? In things that you love, right? So again, some of those things that you love could be, for example, planning for a little bit for the future for the kids. You know? Given certain scenarios, whatever's going on in that time and place. But as a worship for Allah, not out of paranoia. وَوَثِقْتُ لِوَلَدِي مِنْ بَعْدِي بِحُسْنِ طَوْلِكَ. And he said, and so I spent it in worship of you, and I just relied on your bounty for my children after my death. Right? So I did what I had to do, and I did good things, and khalas, when I die, it's in Allah's hands. قال أما إنك لو تعلم العلم لضحكت كثيرا ولبكيت قليلا أما إن الذي قد وثقت به أنزلت بهم. He says, had you really understood, you would have laughed much and wept little. I gave them the very thing you trusted in. And this is, this hadith seems to be weak, right? But again, the whole concept is completely well known and established, right? And أنا عند ظن عبدي بي, right? I am nigh, it comes in the hadith, I am nigh with that which my slave thinks of me, right? Sahih hadith, right? That you have a good opinion of Allah, it's fine. Like, where are you going to die? You don't know. How much you're going to have when you die? You don't know. What's going to happen to your children? You don't know. We're not trying to control the future, right? We're trying to control your worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? There's tadbir, plotting and planning for the future is blameworthy, right? You're not supposed to do that. Plotting and planning how you can worship Allah in the future is praiseworthy. That's what you're supposed to be doing. How can I make wudu? How can I avoid the haram? How can I fulfill my obligations? As opposed to, how on earth am I going to pay for these bills? How on earth am I going to get through this problem? That's called paranoia, and you're not supposed to be doing that, right? You're supposed to leave that to Allah. So here, subhanAllah, we see the two sides, right? This hadith is the opposite side of what we've seen, is, yes, support your family, prioritize your mother, but you shouldn't be paranoid. I have to spend so much on them such that you do something else that's not right, right? My son has to get married, and he can't possibly get married unless we have a wedding like this. And the only way we can have a wedding like this is to take a ribawi loan, to take an interest loan. No. The only way he can have a future is to study at a university like this. And the only way he can do that is by taking an interest loan, right? Allah knows best, right? So we shouldn't have paranoia. Rather we say, we're not trying to ask the question, what's going to happen tomorrow? You ask the question, what does Allah want you to do? How does Allah want you to worship Him today regarding tomorrow? It's a completely different relationship. It's a completely different way of thinking. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhanallah wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka.